Hello and welcome back to Silverhawk Farm. My name is Bree. I am the homesteader here, and today is a really exciting day because I hatched out some chickens. I actually didn't mention it previous because I wasn't actually sure if they were gonna hatch out. I was raising a combination of my Moran's eggs, which are combined with leg bar, so it'll be an olive egger that hatches out, and some blue eggs that are from my Americanas. So I candled a few of the Americana eggs a few days ago, and none of them were developing of the few that I picked. So I was kind of convinced that there was some sort of a fertility issue, and this morning I had 3 baby chicks in my incubator from the Moran's eggs I was not able to candle. So I'm gonna get ready. I really hope that we have more than just the 3 that are hatched out, but I'm going to get this ready and grab the ones that are already born so that they're not disturbing the other eggs, and we'll get all set up here. This is my 3rd time dealing with chicks. I've gotten a lot of like older hens as well on Craigslist and things like that. So my original hens I got in 2019, and I still have a few of those around. And then last year I hatched out chicks for the first time. Sky Girl Farm is the name of a farm who like produces a lot of really cool breeds and just like really lovely practices as far as how they raise their chickens. So I got some hatching eggs from them last year and was able to hatch some out, which is wonderful. And this year I'm hatching out chicks that are only from my flock. So that's really exciting for me. The vast majority of them are Moran's eggs crossed with the leg bar, so they'll be olive eggers. And it's gonna be a super fun time. I told the 3 that were born that they all have to be girls, because if they're all boys, I'm gonna be so mad. But we'll get everything ready. I won't be retaining any boys, really just give them away. But I'll get this set up. For right now, I have a tub that is just a super basic setup. That's only for the first like week or 2. And then I'll move them into a much more sophisticated brooder, and we'll be posting about that as that comes and as I'm working on getting that built. So yeah, let's get started. All right, so we've got all of our supplies here that we need. For the first few days, I use paper towels. I don't use any sort of other bedding, and then I'll move on to a more large chicken-friendly bedding. Paper towels are great because they're easy to dispose of, but they also allow a lot of traction so that they're not likely to slip and hurt their legs. They can slip and hurt their legs. So I'm gonna put a good layer of paper towels down. I don't use paper towels for a lot of things. This is definitely one of them. And then once I'm cleaning this out, after they've moved out, these paper towels are gonna go in my compost, and they're gonna be really lovely sources of nitrogen. And I'm doing kind of a thick layer because the bottom of this bucket isn't entirely flat, and I don't want them to be slipping around in it. All right. So first thing is some sort of bedding. There are certain types of bedding that are like harmful. Honestly, I have to Google it every time. I Google it every time if I'm about to pick up new bedding that I haven't already gotten for the purpose. And I've heard pros and cons to all types of bedding. I think it's just a matter of like finding what you're comfortable with and what works well for you. I have a few things here. So we've got our paper towels laid down in a nice thick layer. I'm gonna switch those paper towels out pretty frequently. They're gonna get kind of gross, and we're gonna want to keep them clean. So depending on how many birds you have in here, you want to keep an eye on that. And then I've got my feeder, which we'll put the food in here. It'll come down through here. And then I've also got a larger waterer. This is probably not ideal. I kind of should probably have 2 of the smaller size, but it's what I could find, and I'm not buying new stuff today. I don't have the water set up because honestly, it's going to be kind of annoying to like set up out here and then carry downstairs without it spilling everywhere. So I am going to go ahead and get it set up with some Hydro Hen. Hydro Hen is optional, and you can get it at Tractor Supply or any feed store for the most part. You can probably find comparable things that are from a different company. This one's made by Monopro. Is it Monopro or Manipro? I don't know. And it's got probiotics, electrolytes, and acidifiers. It's for any age, and I use it anytime that birds are in a stressful situation. Like if they're not laying well, if they're starting to molt when they're born. Being born is stressful. They worked really hard to get out of that shell, which is why I'm going to be using it today. Anytime there's sickness or I'm having to move new hens in or out. So if I introduced one new hen to my flock, I would give all of them hydro hen because they would be stressed. So I'm going to put a small amount of that in this water. So I'm going to have to swap out this water with some clean water in about a day. Or in a day, it says very specifically 24 hours. So this is only to be used with fresh water, but it'll just kind of give them a little bit of a boost if they're missing any nutrients or lacking energy after the hard work of being born. And then I've got my feeder. Obviously, I've got food over there. I'll fill up in just a moment. And then I've got my heat plate. Heat plate is great because it is fire safe. There are lots of people who have used like heat lamps for decades with no problem, only to find that one day it burns down their barn. I've heard too many horror stories. I've actually never used a heat lamp because I've heard so many horror stories. I invested in this thing first time I hatched out chicks or ordered chicks, and it's wonderful. It's worked for several years. It has this handy dandy thing so they don't poop all over the top of it. I feel like I've gotten a lot of value out of it, but they can be a little bit of an investment. So keep that in mind if you're planning to hatch out chicks. Google safe practices for heat lamps if you're choosing to use a heat lamp. But if you want to be absolutely certain that you're heat safe, these things are awesome. You can get, I think I got mine from Premier One. I get most of my stuff from Premier One. They're a lovely company. They have really good customer service. So I'm just going to lay this down in here. Oh shoot, it's too small. No, it's not. It's okay. I think we're good. We're just going to move it to the back of this and shove it nice down. And if I warp this bucket a little bit, I don't actually get it. There we go. Much better. Obviously, they need enough space to get away from the heat as well as have access to the heat. So I've got enough space over here. I might move them to something bigger sooner than I had planned with how little space they're going to have here. But this is enough room for water. I need to find a smaller smaller feeder, but I'll use this one for water for right now instead. And we'll figure out a feeder probably out of just a small shallow bowl for the first few days, which is going to be absolutely fine. The last thing we have here is some chick starter. You do want to get chick specific food. The layer feed that you would use later for laying hens has a little bit too much calcium and like a different distribution of nutrients. So you definitely want to get something chick specific. Everything else is up to you. I use organic. This is a brand that I haven't used before, so I can't necessarily vouch for them, but I'm a big fan of whatever Tractor Supply's got at this point. So I've just got the pan of food. It's a lot of food. It's more than they're going to need. But I know that they're going to scratch around in it and make a big mess, and I'm going to have to replace it a lot. And like, that's just all fine. And then I'm going to go ahead and use this guy for water so that it's a little bit smaller and giving them more space to roam around. I'm going to get this water filled up. I'm going to get it moved to the basement. I'm going to get the heating plate turned on and heat it up before I put the chickens in there. And I'll feel underneath to make sure that it's getting nice and warmed up before I put them in, so that I'm not risking putting them into a cold environment where they're not going to be thriving. So I'm going to move you down to the basement where the lighting sucks and probably move to voiceover. So I got everything moved down into the basement, and I found a much smaller pan to use for food, which was actually my oldest son's little play pan when he was a toddler. Each chick, I'm making sure that they know where the water source is by dipping their beak very gently into the water. And from that point, they'll instinctively go towards the water and they'll find the food on their own. I've never had to really introduce them to the food. And I actually noticed one of the chicks like feeding on its egg earlier, which was a nice encouragement that they've got that will to thrive. I also took some pictures for Instagram, of course, because, you know, you gotta do it. They're doing great. I went and checked to make sure that the heating is nice and warm, and I also put them underneath the heating plate just to make sure they knew where the warmth was, because they all seemed a little stressed. All right, I got the brooder all set up. We got the 3 chicks moved over. Really hopeful that those are all girls. Maybe I'll get lucky this time. Generally, I don't. And I'm hoping that we'll hatch out a few more and I'll be able to get those moved over. But I thought that in the interest of better lighting, I would say goodbye to you all while showing you the beautiful chickens that these chicks came from. And there's Daddy right there. I'm across the fence because he wants to fight me lately because I've been trying to get his broodies off of the nest. But I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching and hanging out with me today. I appreciate you so much, and I'm so excited to start this new channel. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I will see you soon. Okay, love you, bye!